podcast hosted by yours truly, Siobhan Higgins, professional soccer player and sport and performance psychology consultant. Last episode, we concluded our chats with Jay, and I alluded to the A&M series. So with it being April and with me being in Texas, I wanted to tap into the Aggie Network. And so today's guest is going to be an A&M former A&M softball player, also my friend, Miss Kayla Ober.
Hello.
Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. I'm so excited.
Yes, me too.
And for everyone else to know, we're going to have, my idea is to have an A&M athlete, former or current, each week of April. Because the Aggie Network runs deep. There's so many of y'all.
Deep.
And our producer, Taylor, is also an alumni. So.
Yes.
Well, cool. I'm super excited to have you today. First question for you is, how did you get recruited to A&M, and like what year did you commit?
Okay. It's so different now. It's crazy how much it changes just over a short period of time. When I was getting recruited, it was still at the time where you're emailing coaches, hey, I'm going to be playing here. Here's my schedule. I'd love for you to come watch, right? Yep. You're kind of emailing the top schools that you're interested in. But really, that was only the way of communication at that time. We didn't have portals or all these things that you can upload film and all that. So you actually had to email them, express your interest, and they had to come watch you play. During my time when I played, you could really get recruited at any age. So I really think that I really started getting recruited heavily my 9th grade year.
Wow.
Yeah,
which is so early.
So early. Mm-hmm. Looking in hindsight, I wish I would have done it a little bit differently, but at the time, that's just what it was. And so I got recruited 9th grade, started all my visits, and that's when I committed to A&M.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's super young. And also for listeners to understand, Kayla went to Cinco Ranch High School. And did you play softball in high school?
Absolutely.
And did you play like travel ball?
All of it.
What club or team did you play for?
So I played for Aces Jacoby.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. From what age does that like span from? Like when did you start?
So really tournament softball, I would say started I started playing when I was like 4 or 5 and just like little league. Dang. But then around like 7, 8, 9, we started tournament ball. And after that, like that was kind of my life, tournament softball and high school softball. I mean, I did it year round.
That's crazy. Did you play any other sports at the time?
I played volleyball in junior high, and I wanted to play in high school, but the beginning of volleyball season was right the bulk of when I was getting recruited. So I kind of had to make the decision to focus on softball at that time.
Okay.
So after that, that's all I played.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's pretty cool because other athletes I've spoken to, and then myself as well, like I did other sports up until probably high school is when I made a decision, and I started late, but 5 is young. Was that strategic on your parents' behalf, you think?
They just put me in softball. You know, parents, they just put you in all the sports, and then just kind of flourished and just kind of stood out a little bit. And so that I just stayed in softball and ran with it.
Dang, cool.
Yeah.
And do you think it was in the back of their mind that they wanted you to go to A&M?
I wouldn't necessarily say A&M. My parents didn't grow up Aggies. Both of them went to Sam Houston.
Okay.
It was more of they wanted me to stay in Texas.
Yeah.
And so when I was trying to get recruited, I was really just sending the coaches around the Texas area. Mm-hmm. I actually was really interested in Texas State. Like that's really what my main but then I started getting looked at by a little bit bigger schools. And so kind of my mindset shifted. But I wouldn't necessarily say there was one school that they wanted me to go to.
Okay. Yeah. I was wondering if it was like family of Aggies and like, you must go here. Like, this is the goal, you know?
No.
Okay. Well, very cool.
Yeah.
Dude, A&M is such a big school. And for me, I'm trying to think back to high school. Like if anyone competed to A&M, I was like, what? That's awesome. Which again, really big. What's the word I'm looking for? Not accolade again. Help me out here.
Accomplishment.
Thank you.
You're good.
I just got off a flight.
It's that Aggie education.
Thank you. It's yes, really big accomplishment. And I'm excited to learn more about the culture because I went to a smaller school. I didn't get that huge experience where it's NCAA D1, so many other teams and people. Like the population is just insane. But I wanted to stay in the zone. So right now, let's think we're back in high school.
Yeah.
You committed, you're a freshman. Now what? Like, were you kind of like, cool, let's relax? Or were you like, I need to work hard so I can keep this? Because it's such a long time. That's 3 more years until you actually go to school.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't necessarily say I took my foot off the pedal. I just continued what I was doing. Now in hindsight, I kind of see it all differently after going, playing tournament softball, going to play college softball, now coaching high school softball and just being around still the game. If looking back, I wish I didn't do so much tournament softball. Like, it was just a lot. I wish I really just focused on my craft a little bit more instead of just constant games, tournaments all the time. I wish I was more intentional about my reps, instead of just, playing 10 games a weekend and then.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot.
In high school, there was like 10 games a weekend?
I mean, some tournaments we would play 6, 7, 8 games, sometimes 5 games in a day. It was.
What? How long are games? I'm sorry. I'm not like well versed in softball.
No,
world.
You're good. I mean, and this is in Texas summer. Like it is hot.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's a grind. But I mean, it depends. Like probably hour-and-a-half games,
Yeah, but in a day? Wow.
Yeah.
Do they do that now?
Yeah.
Still.
That's
too much, y'all.
It's a lot.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I know that soccer tournaments, to relate it, is like I remember doing maybe 3 max, but no more than 3. And it's still an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But in this Texas heat,
I know. Like after going to college, we would all joke. We'd play 1 game a day and be exhausted. And
be like, how did we do it?
How the hell did we do that?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's tough. Oh my gosh.
But as a kid, you just show up and you do it.
Yeah. What time was the first game?
You'd have 8 a.m. games, right? I get there an hour early. You're waking up at 6, 5:30 in the morning, depending how far the drive was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the drives too.
I mean, Sunday nights, sometimes we'd be getting home at midnight.
Yeah.
In the morning.
I felt that. And then you got to go to school. Lots of homework and studying in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you would advise somebody else or younger Kayla, you would have said maybe, or you would have maybe chosen not to play tournament ball after you committed? Is that what you're saying?
I would not necessarily say not play tournament ball because you're competing, like, right? You need to be in games competing. But I wish I didn't have did it so much, like almost every weekend going to tournaments all the time. I also wish I, spent more time doing things with my friends, just kind of living life a little bit more. But I don't regret anything. Really, I don't regret anything. I loved it. I had a great time.
Yeah.
But just, going through the college and understanding what it takes, I would have done things a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just advise a little bit differently.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So fascinating. I have so many questions.
I know.
Hey.
You did ask me about getting recruited earlier, or we were kind of talking about that.
Yeah.
And it's changed now. So you can't get recruited till your junior year.
Okay. Yeah. It was like that for me with soccer. Well, sorry, no, that's not true. We could have been recruited, but we couldn't talk to the coaches until junior year.
Okay, yeah. I think it might something along that line. You can't start talking to them your junior year. So
gotcha.
And that happened a little bit when I got into college, and I'm so thankful for that change. As far as when it comes to recruiting, because I think, how can you make a decision to go to college when you're like 12, 13, 14 years old? Like,
yes.
It's crazy.
You're so young. I remember trying to choose my major when I was like 17, 18, and they're like, you got to start thinking about what you're going to study for the rest of your life. I was thinking, I don't know. I wasn't one of those people that just knew I was going to be a doctor, engineer or something, which I'm neither of those. And, it took me a second to find out what I wanted to do and what I was good at. But 13, 14, I can't imagine.
Absolutely. Right. You're just so young, and you don't truly understand what college is, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I love that they changed that to your junior year. And also kids just develop differently. Some kids might get recruited freshman year and then kind of progressively don't get better, or vice versa. Kids really start to flourish junior, senior year.
Yeah. That was going to be my question, because you committed. So for me, if I'm thinking, like, I remember you committed and it was like a big thing. It was on Twitter. It was like, oh, Kayla Ober's going to A&M. Super cool. But at that point, do you think that you got better, or do you think you kind of stayed the same, or do you think you maybe like did not get better?
As I grew and matured, I definitely got better.
Okay.
I do think I got better, but again, like, if I look back, I think you go through the years, especially high school, and just kind of go through the motions, right? Like, you just show up to the ballpark, you play, you go home. And now being on the back end, I wish I was just more intentional about what I did, right? Like going weight room, the reps that I was getting, right? Just, but as I got older, I did get better, obviously, but again, in that aspect, I think I could have been even better.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, that's understandable. Like, instead of just checking it off, like, I did this, I did X, Y, and Z. Cool, I'm good to go. You would have been like, oh, let's work on this, or like, this is a weakness, let's strengthen that, or this is what I'm good at, let's get better at it. And just be intentional about it.
And just really maybe learning the game a little bit more.
Yeah.
It was like I was watching a college softball game, and they were just talking about like a high school girl that went to college and she's just flourishing. And when she was getting recruited, they're like, man, if someone just like takes her and works with her, and she's just flourished. And I just like, I wish I just did a little bit of that before I went to college.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Good little piece of advice. And then you mentioned earlier, but I didn't tell the audience, but you are currently a high school softball coach. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to Terry High School.
Yay.
Yeah.
Ranger Pride.
How'd they do? How is that? And I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself because that's currently what you do. And then the meat of it is your experience at A&M. But how did you know that you wanted to coach, or did that kind of come during college or after?
I feel like it was always in my heart to be a coach or give back to the game somehow, because it just like gave so much to me. And I just feel like I have knowledge, we'll come back to this. I'm sure we'll talk about my college experience. But just my knowledge of going through everything, I wanted to share that knowledge with kids, because I didn't have like a mentor that was in college or went through it that could have shared with like, hey, before you go to college, and I wish I had that. I wish I had a little bit. So I wanted to share my knowledge, and I knew always in my heart that I wanted to give back to the game. I didn't know what it looked like. But when I got into the real world, just something was pulling at me to go teach and coach. And I think I'm exactly where I need to be right now.
That's awesome. I love that. That's good. There was like a little seed was planted. You felt like pulled in that direction, and then your experience probably solidified that.
For sure.
Cool.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yay.
People always ask me, like, do you miss playing? I'm like, actually, I really enjoy being on the coaching side of it.
Yeah. Because you're still involved somehow.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever step away from soccer completely. Like, I am still, my foot is in the door with coaching, with reffing, and then with consulting. And then just, social media. I do everything is like soccer.
Absolutely.
And it just happened that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So for soccer, for you didn't get recruited till your junior year? And that's just how it was in soccer?
Well, I was being recruited prior, but again, there was like no contact. So I was getting emails. You were going to tournaments where coaches would come to scout you, really only in club. So the equivalent to tournament ball. But I committed my late junior year, I believe. Yeah.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah. I think that's an appropriate time as well.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if there was one school that I was really focused on, I probably would have been super intentional about reaching out to them. But it wasn't like that for me. I was just like really set on going D1, which the first school I went to was Division I. And I actually ended up transferring. And so that's something I will talk about in a later episode. But yeah, I think junior year is a pretty good time because you've matured a little bit more. You can see, coaches can see your quality. So it's like, this is probably what you're going to get at that age.
Yeah.
But I mean, to each their own. Everyone has their own style of recruitment. And then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to get into your experience in college. But what was your deciding factor between choosing A&M as opposed to any other college?
So you know, you just, right, you walk on a big campus like A&M, and, you know, just as a young girl, like, right, you look up to kids or like players at A&M, like Amanda Scarborough, Megan Gibson, right, those people, and then you're in the moment and you go to the A&M football game, right, and you talk so much about culture, like you just go there and it just like overwhelms you, just like, oh my gosh, like this is unreal, and just the fact that it was A&M, it was just like, wow, like I want to come here, you know. I would say, you know, looking back, my biggest regret at that time, right, I was being recruited and I had other visits to go on and I never took those visits.
Ooh, okay.
So I kind of went to A&M and was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, it just, you know, they tell you all the things, this is what it's going to be like. And you're just like, it's not going to get better than this, right? And so we walked away and we were just like, okay, this is it. Let's, you know, I'm going to commit to A&M. And that was that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's so exciting. I feel like, you know, that, were you a freshman at the time you said? Okay. That's super exciting and overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, but a pretty cool experience, especially because I'm assuming they took you to games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing, walk on the field, all the stuff. You know,
I'm getting butterflies again just thinking about it.
It's so cool though. It really is such a cool, unique experience.
Yeah. But just in case, so to advise, you would say take the other tours, or what
Your visits.
Yeah.
I think
just scope it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you never know, right? That's my biggest advice. I tell my kids all the time that are being recruited, like, go on all the visits. Don't rush the decision, because if they really want you and they care about you and genuinely care about you, they'll respect that you're going to make that decision. Exactly. You know, so that was my biggest regret, was not going on all my visits.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. Thank you for sharing. Because do you think, again, we're going to get into it in a second, because you didn't play all 4 years. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Disclaimer at everyone listening.
Yes.
But I mean, it's important information to know. And so I was wondering, given your circumstance, do you wish you went on other visits because maybe you might have chosen a different school that you might have enjoyed playing at more? Yeah,
I think, you know, I went to A&M, and I think just the big grand of the school was just like, you know, like, I'm going to go here, but I didn't go on all the visits. Maybe I would have meshed with that coach a little bit better. Maybe I would have just had a different vibe or feeling going to those schools, or maybe just seeing what every school's about, you know, and I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, when recruiting, they're telling you all the great things, right? Yeah. Hey, we do this. We're going to give you this. This is what's going to be like. And, you know, you're like, is it going to get better than A&M? So that's kind of a big part of why we made that decision.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't know if it would have. It's a pretty big school.
Agreed. You know, I don't think I would have. I don't know. But just going on those visits. And again, you're so young. I just feel like I was just kind of going through the motions. You're like, cool, I'm getting recruited, softball. Yeah. Cool. You know, you're just like, it's not as deep as a decision. I don't know.
It seems easy and it seems really convincing. It's compelling. They want you. So they're telling you all the things. It is a great school. There's great facilities. And then there's no downfall, right? You're seeing all the positives. You don't see any negatives. So I can see why the decision would have been made quickly. You're like, all right, this is it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, at a young age, that is difficult.
Yeah.
So advice to anyone in the recruitment process is scope out all your options, because you just never know.
Absolutely. And, you know, playing at a big Division I, it was an amazing experience. But I think at the end of the day, going somewhere where you feel valued and can have a good college experience, like, that's more important than going to that D1. Obviously, that's everybody's dream. But at the end of the day, you don't go somewhere where you feel valued, you can have a great college experience. And that's that, really.
Yeah. Honestly, I agree, because I spoke with another friend, Taryn Siegley, and she did the opposite. She went to Arizona and then she walked on, and she did it solely for the school. And I was like, I wish I would have done that, because I was so focused on the same mindset, like D1. I just wanted a D1 offer. And I had other great schools that recruiting me that I just totally were like, no, not going there. No, I stuck my nose up, which is naive, and it's just an ignorant decision on my behalf. And then later I transferred. But these are things to keep in mind. Really look into the program, because you're going to be there for 4 years. And then as an athlete, you do have to take into account like injury, or maybe if you're not playing. And if the time comes and just the sport isn't for you, or that culture isn't for you once you're fully indulged in it, you have to have the school to fall back on. So you need to like the school and other things about it.
Absolutely. Right. And in the recruiting listen, talk, ask the players there, what is it like playing here? See a lot of kids leaving the program. Right. Now with the transfer portal, such a big thing, right? And what does the alumni look like? If nobody's coming back, that's a red flag, right? Ask questions, ask players, what's it like, because at the end of the day, just having a great college softball experience or whatever sport that you play is what you want, Having
that culture. That's a really good point. You made me laugh for a second. I do have like an alumni game in a few weeks, but I can't go. Aww. I've missed it like every year because I've been abroad in Europe, and now this is like finally home, and I just can't go.
Aww. Do y'all like actually play? Like you get in there?
Yeah, we'll do an alumni game. So we'll play versus whoever's there. And my school, our women's program is new, so we don't have that many alumni. But the men, there's like decades of guys that come to play.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's cool. And that like shows what the program is like, and that people will come back. So that's a good point. Check the alumni. And Jay in my last episode was mentioning that too. Like tap in and do your research, see who's leaving, see who's staying, see what they're doing after, and see if they're giving back to the program, like if they believe in it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that shows a big part of what that program is and what it really is on the inside.
Yeah, which is extremely important. So I would like to see firsthand from the inside, what was, could you tell the audience a little bit more about your experience playing if your freshman, sophomore year, what position you played, and then, all the things that you're willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't play all 4 years. And in hindsight, I really think I realized I went into college a little burnt out. Like I said, my senior summer, I was the only pitcher on my high school team. I pitched every single game, every second.
Is that normal?
Yes and no. Yes and no. But it was me. Like I was all my high school team had. I pitched everything. But I loved it. I loved it. And then right after high school season, I went into like a jam-packed summer of tournament softball all summer long, pitched so much, played in the heat all summer long, and then to jump into like college sports, like I was burnt out going into it, looking back hindsight. But my experience at A&M was tough, and again, I just think it wasn't the place for me. Now, and you can see it now, right? People go to college and then maybe realize it wasn't for them, and then they go somewhere else and thrive, right? Like I just think, again, going back to the recruiting, like making sure it's a fit for you, that coaching staff, the people, making sure it's the right fit. Because I didn't think it was the right fit for me. I had my first year, I really struggled at A&M, but it's just kind of navigating college sports, right? It's high pressure, SEC softball. It's a lot going at all times. Yeah. It was tough for me. But my freshman summer going to my sophomore year, I was like, I'm going to ramp it up. Like I busted. I wanted to earn a spot. I actually was recruited as a pitcher and a hitter. So I think that's what got me there, is being able to hit as well as being able to pitch. But when I got to A&M, they put me in outfield as well. Never played outfield, but they put me out there, and I just took it and ran with it. So that was fun. But I will say my 2 years at A&M were very tough. I just think, and I don't want to speak poorly on anybody, but again, some people go to college and have a great experience, but there was a group of us that really did struggle. And I just think, as a 18-year-old going into college, right? You're still so young, and you're trying to navigate college sports, adulthood, going to college. And I just didn't really feel like there was coaching that like helped us grow our mindset and develop in the game of softball. And so I honestly think I went there and almost degressed, to be honest. I didn't feel like the development piece was really there for me. And you can't go play SEC softball and not grow your game, you know? And so it was tough for me. And I just felt like no matter how hard you worked and tried to earn a spot, like there wasn't spots to be earned. So that was very discouraging. And I just think, even maybe as not an everyday starter, you just kind of, the way they made you feel, just kind of insecure. I wouldn't say insecure, but just not good enough, not like meant to be a part of the program. And I think a lot of kids kind of maybe felt that way. And so it's hard to go compete not feeling like you're valued.
Definitely.
Or that you matter or that you are important, you know? So I think that played a big part in just where I struggled. Now, some people went and had a great experience. That just wasn't for me. But again, I just didn't think the coaching style and how I needed, like there would be times where me and my coach never even spoke. It'd be weeks on end. Like that's the type of relationship, right? I'd rather you yell at me, do something.
Some sort of communication.
Something, right? But like the lack of communication just didn't make me feel valued or that I mattered.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, you're competing at the top level and you're trying to you're 18, 19 years old, trying to navigate all this, like, and not really having that mentor to like help you grow your mindset and help you grow your confidence as a young woman. And
that's difficult.
You have to have that. If you listen to the top Division I softball teams, they just really talk about their coach and how they develop them as a woman, as a player. And I just think that piece lacked and I needed that. Right. So, it was tough for me. It challenged me as a person a lot, but I can truly say that I never gave up. I'd work hard to always earn my spot. I didn't make excuses. I didn't cut corners. Like I worked really hard to try to earn a spot. And, you know, I did get opportunities and here and there and I took it and ran with it. But I just, at the end of the day, I just think my time I was there just wasn't right for me.
Yeah. That's such a shame. And I like to hear that you pointed out all the efforts that you did make just because those are your controllables. But it is unfortunate to hear. And it's, again, so unfortunate that is extremely common. You know, we're working on the coaches as well, like as well as working on athletes' progress. We're working on coaches' progress. But to go weeks at a time without communication is actually crazy. And I could see why you would feel like a second option or overlooked because that just, no, I don't know. I mean, today's day and age, there's more support staff. And so I was wondering, what type of support staff did you guys have? And did you feel comfortable reaching out and speaking to other people? Like, were you confiding in other players and senior players, or were there did you guys have any sort of, I don't know, support staff in terms of like, could you vent to the athletic trainer about it? Could you talk to an AD? Like, were you comfortable with that? Or did you have some sort of like counselor or sports psychology consultant? I don't know what they have over there at that time.
Yeah. As far as that, I think sports mental health was kind of about to break through. Like it wasn't really a thing at the time. Yeah. As much as it is now, which I think is so good and so important. To be honest, I feel like just there was a few girls on the team that we all kind of felt similar. So we kind of confided in each other and just like, you know, we're there for each other. There was some amazing people on the staff, like our strength coach, you know, just people that, right, you work hard, you show up right, treat you with respect, right? Like it's just, there was people, our athletic trainer Stephanie Key, like was just top notch. Like there was people in the program that supported and loved, but besides that, like sports psychology, there wasn't really anybody to talk to. Like, you know, it's really just us as a team or the group of us that kind of felt like we were going through it together. We would just kind of be there for each other. But I think a lot of us were ashamed of how we felt or felt like, is it me? Like, but then when we started talking to each other, we all realized we felt very similarly, right? But at the same time, right, you're ashamed of how you feel. You don't want to talk about it, or you want to try to put a tough face on and fight through it. And I think that's what a lot of us did. Right? You just
Yeah, you don't want to be the problem. And also if you're trying to earn your way, because it's so difficult, especially as a freshman. You mentioned like the transition, it's so difficult in itself. It's a whole new ball game, pun intended. And you have to like get used to the schedule, to balancing more than just school and sport. Now it's school, sport, social, and then you barely have any time for anything. You're exhausted. There's so many things going on. And in terms of like sports psychology help, I mean, I know I was looking up the roster now. They do have those services, but I almost wonder if like maybe if it was there or some sort of resources were there, but it's difficult as an athlete or just a person in general to want to reach out to get help because it's, again, you feel a little bit ashamed, embarrassed. You don't want anyone to know. But like sometimes you do need that support. And how would we know to have it if no one's offering it? And so I would really hope that, I mean, the idea is for all sports teams to have somebody on staff to where it's like, hey, I'm in your corner. If you need me, I'm here. If you don't, cool. But just so you know, like in that off chance that someone's like, hey, I'm kind of struggling, or hey, let me just run this by somebody else who's going to have a different outside perspective that's going to be unbiased. And they study this and they're a professional in their department. You know, that I feel like that would pretty much help. But I did a similar thing with my freshman year. The girls, I think there was like only a few of us and we were all struggling as well. I think all of us left or just, most of us left or stopped playing. And you just kind of, you're talking to each other like, are you feeling this way? Like it is good to tap in and have a teammate. Like that is really comforting. And I'm sure that's what helped you stick on for that extra year or so. But yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Like,
and what's crazy is, you know, the girls that we all kind of went through together, we're all still very close and we still talk about it to this day. Like we try not to get together and talk about our experience because we just get really worked up. But we just, what really was hard for me was like after college, that feeling and that just like, am I good enough? It translated into my life, like with a job. Like my first job, I was like, am I even good enough to get this job? And it was just like the way that I felt about myself, the way that I felt through my college experience. And I've really worked through it now and have worked through it. I'm not saying I'm not a confident person because that's not it. It was more of like, am I even good enough for this? Am I even good enough for this? And like, that's just the feelings and how we felt. And we all talk about, we all feel that same way. Yeah.
You weren't getting that validation at all. And you weren't getting anything. You weren't getting any positive feedback. You were just getting like nothing. And so, how would you know? It might be a little like the first thing that came to mind for me was confidence, and not in like that you're not confident, but just in the sense that you're not getting that reinforcement. Like, you're doing a good job. Your efforts have been seen and heard. And like, yes, you earned this. And so I can see how after college it would translate because that's a shame.
And the thing about me, if I'm not the best 9, I'm a realistic person, right? Yeah. When I was in college, there would be times I wasn't the best 9 out there. I'm fine with that, right? But just because I'm not on the field doesn't mean I should not still be treated that that I matter, or that like I show up every day and work just as hard. Like, and that's what I try to implement in my programs. Whatever, like every kid I have in my program, I want them to know that like they matter, they have value and why they're here. And that's because sports is not forever. So like giving kids confidence and just motivation and encouragement goes way further.
It does. No, seriously. And I've seen it happen with previous roommates or other teammates. And I know I was fortunate to be somebody who did play and did get game time, but I saw people in other programs, even in beyond college, just get overlooked. And that's wrong. You know, you should have some, like in my previous episode, we talked with Jay, and he has a handful of kids, and he mentions like all of the kids can be starters. They're not all going to start. But he lets them know that they're all valued and you're used in one specific way. I remember I think a sports psychology consultant came and talked to my team once. I want to say it was like high school, but even if you weren't playing, like you play a role, especially in team sports, like you have some sort of role. And to build the confidence, like you're there, maybe it's as the person who picks somebody else up, or if you're coming on second, like it doesn't mean that you're second best. It's just like two people of same talent and they just want to split the time. But it's like the line of communication, let it be open and have those meetings with your players probably weekly. I feel like it should be weekly or bi-weekly just to know their progress so that they know what you're thinking. Otherwise, it's so anxiety inducing for an athlete to not know, because now you're just wondering, why am I not playing? Why did I get subbed off? Why am I getting 20 minutes a game? Like, why did I sit out here? But, you know, and you're just overthinking everything. There needs to be an open line of communication, especially in college athletics.
And right, what happens if the starter gets hurt, right? And you got to go in, but now this whole time you felt
now you're like, I don't want to.
You're just not confident, right? Like I always, like with my program, I make sure every kid every day is a competition for a spot. So when your time comes, you're confident, you're ready to go. Right. And it just wasn't that. It was these kids and then the rest of y'all. Right. And then when we're thrown in situations that we, you know, aren't confident about our play, we're not confident in ourselves, we don't feel valued, we're terrified to screw up. Right. Like we're like, that's how I felt. I was so worried about messing up, and that wasn't the player I was not like that. I was relentless. I didn't even think about that stuff till I got to college, and I just think that's just maybe how I felt. That's just the relationship and how I felt. And I think a few other players felt the same way. And you know, I think it happens a little bit in every program. And unfortunately, that was what happened for me. And some people had a great experience at A&M. But that was just my experience, you know?
And you're right. I mean, I can see your experience is valid, and like however you're feeling, completely valid. And it is common. And I'm pretty sure every program has it. Like, unfortunately, maybe one or two players are feeling this way. And it's such a shame. But I just feel it's so preventable by communication or by a coach that has, I don't want to say like better morals, but just like a better understanding of the game and for people. Like you have to care about the people. You recruited them. You talked a big game. Where's it at? You know?
And with coaching, it's relationship first, right? Like you have to build those relationships, right? People don't learn from people they don't trust, right?
Exactly.
People don't want to work hard for people that don't treat, you know? And so like when I came into my program, like I feel like I have very good relationships with my kids, right? And that's number one. That's how you're going to get the most out of them, that you care about them as people first. Right? And I think my college experience has taught me a lot of things I want to do in my program, but also a lot of things that I would do differently.
And then same, you mentioned something, same into the workforce. Like you don't want to work for a company that's not going to value you.
Absolutely.
Same thing with athletics. You don't want to play for somebody who doesn't value you. Or like an example that came to mind is in terms of playing, like say a starter gets all this attention, other people are just put on the bench, they're just like overlooked, and then they get injured and crap. Oh yeah, now I need you to go in. And it's like, yeah, but I feel like there's three ways. One, you're going to go in and play well or try to prove a point. So you're just like, let's go. I'm going to try to get the spot now, which is rare. Two, you're going to have a demotivated athlete that comes in. They don't really want to be in because they're mad. And so now it's more of like a personal thing. Like, I don't want to play for you because you weren't going to put me in anyway. And I don't care about this. Screw this. And if I mess up, whatever. And then third, you're going to have somebody who is wanting to play, but now they're nervous and they're also unaware and they're probably not super involved in the plays. So like if they do mess up, they weren't properly equipped to even succeed because they were an afterthought. And then again, it's going to be like a mess up after mess up because now you're in your head and you were already feeling a little bit shaky when you came on.
Yeah, exactly. It just felt like you're put in these tough situations that right? Again, we're playing in some of the top softball in the United States, right? In the nation. And we're expected to just produce. And sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But it just felt like when we didn't, it was like, oh, see, that's why. And you're just like, you're like, you're not setting us up for success here.
Exactly.
You know?
All of athletes need to be set up for success. They all need to be included. There can't be like a split or divide. And that's on the coach. That's on the coach and that's on the program and that's on the culture.
Yeah. Right. And just a culture of you have to win your spot every day. And I didn't think that was always the case. I always thought it was kind of evident who is going to play at all times. So the people like they didn't feel like they had to work harder because there was someone behind them about to take their spot. It just didn't feel like that kind of vibe on the team, you know? So that's why, like with my program, you're competing for your spot every single day, right? You know? And so go win it.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that. And it should be that way. You shouldn't be complacent as an athlete. And I love that. I have athletes who they're currently working on, you know, they've got their spot, they're doing well, they're producing, and they're like, I don't want to lose this. So I'm going to keep working hard. And it's a good motivating factor.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Knowing at all times, hey, if I'm not stepping up, right, this kid next to me could take my spot. Yeah. Right. And it's not it's just compete.
Yeah. It's competition.
Earn things. Right. And that's in life as well.
Exactly.
Right? Like
in work.
Yep.
The real world. Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
big exhale.
Yeah.
But no, okay. I want to touch on more into the culture of A&M because unfortunately that wasn't an amazing experience for you. And you did make the decision to stop playing. You still continued to be a student at A&M. Okay, well that's great. Is that because you like the culture of the school, or I don't know?
Yeah, so when I stopped playing, I actually, one of our managers who worked in our program, who I actually had a good relationship with, and she really believed in me. Like, she was actually one person that I felt believed in me. She went over to a school in California, UC Riverside, and she was like, hey, do you want to come be my pitcher over here? And to be honest, I didn't even think twice about it. I just think at that point I was just like hurt from the game. Like I was just like I don't want to play softball. I'm burnt out. And I think that was the best decision. I don't know, maybe it would have been different if I transferred, but you know, talking to my parents, I was just like, I'm burnt out of the game. I want to just go ahead and get my degree from A&M. Like I'm going to graduate from A&M. Yeah. So at that time, that's what was more important. I did like it. My friends were there. Yeah. I was doing well in school. And I was just like, I want to graduate from A&M. I want to get my degree. I want to get my Aggie ring. Yeah. Right. Like so that was the decision I made, and I didn't really think twice about it.
Good. Yeah. Because that's very difficult to I haven't experienced that, to stop playing while you're still attending the school. That's almost like the first analogy that comes to mind is like breaking up with somebody but staying in that hometown, you know? Like that hurts.
Yeah. It was definitely interesting to navigate because all my roommates were softball players. And you know, I like your whole life has been softball, and you're like, what the heck am I good at now? Like, what does life look like now? Yeah. So that was an interesting shift, but you know, some of my closest friends were still on the team. I still hung out with them, but then it also allowed me to like go out and explore life. Yeah. And to be honest, looking back, a lot of girls play softball for 4 years and then they graduate and go to the real world, and they never even like thought about life after college. And so I actually was able to do that. And so I think that did set me up for success after college.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. So, you know, I look at that and I'm like, actually, you know, I am thankful for that.
Because I talk in my last episode about the transition. It's difficult. Like for you mentioning your whole life was softball, not probably. It sounds like it was rigorously softball from like
1,000%.
From sun up to sundown. And so I can see why you would have been burnt out as well, because it's so much all at once. And you said that it was so much going into college as well, that your time, you were like, at this point, you know, I'll hang it up right now. But that gave you the opportunity to explore. And then it's great that you were at a big school that had a lot of opportunity. So what did you do? And if you don't mind explaining, like, how was that transition period for you? I'm assuming difficult because, again, like I was mentioning, it's kind of like a heartache feeling. I know that stopping a sport it's not easy because you don't know what it looks like. And a lot of athletes don't know what to prepare for. But how did you tap into other things, and how did you find new interests and kind of find who you were beyond softball?
Yeah, I mean, I will say one thing I am so thankful for sports, and I'm sure you could agree with this, is just like the skills you learn in life and like your confidence as a person. And I'm thankful for that, because I think if you don't have that, just losing something that you were great at and trying to navigate that could be like earth shattering, honestly.
Yeah.
But I do think that like I have a lot of confidence in myself and like was just like, you know what, let's enjoy this phase of life. And it was a little different, right? Trying to figure out what else I was good at, but
it's rocky.
It was fun because then I realized I am actually really creative. Like I never really tapped into my creative side because my life has been softball. And I'm like, whoa, like I actually love clothes. I love like being creative. And I was able to make friends outside of the sport and actually had a lot of fun. Like I really just, I didn't, and I also think at that time I didn't regret quitting. I never had moments where I was like, man, I wish I was still playing. I think I was a little like hurt from it and just like bitter about softball. So I was just, it was a transition. And I think a lot of people go through this identity crisis after it being your whole life. And there was times it was tough trying to fit in and where I fit in, right? I was trying to join organizations, but I don't know. I'm just not like sorority girl. It's not my thing, right? My group has always been my softball team. So it kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone to like figure out who I am outside of it. So it was tough at times, but I really think I learned a lot about myself, pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I'm kind of thankful for that time.
Yeah.
So
that is a really interesting way to tap into who you are. And then those are things that I haven't thought about because, you know, I played throughout college, but wow, there are so many people, especially listening, that I really hope can resonate with that and can gain a little bit of insight because that's difficult. I mean, I don't know what I would do, but the advice that I would give somebody is this is what I would do actually for athletes is you tap into that while you're playing. So while you're in season, do something that's like a hobby. Do things that you like even if it's reading. Okay, you like reading. Maybe join a book club. I don't know. Maybe make a little Instagram page of all the books you read. Something like that. So you have like a tiny little hobby. You know, it's like an interest of yours. Absolutely. Or if you said creative, like fashion, make a little board. Or you like to go shopping. Like shopping's a hobby. Find other girls that have the common interest. Or even like writing. There's writing clubs. You can practice. You can, again, probably read more because you're trying to be creative in writing. I'm sure they have clubs like that on campus as well. There are so many clubs. This is something, or even like if you're religious, like are there religious organizations at your school? Like what does that look like? So if you're an athlete listening and all you know right now is your sport, like that is fine and that's okay, but pay attention to things that you do like. Maybe like going on a walk. I don't know, you know, like during COVID, those people did like walk clubs. That's a thing. Like that's where you find community because you find people that have common interests. Yeah. And the other thing you mentioned that, I was forgetting, but whenever you're an athlete, all like the friends that you make are usually in your sports. And sometimes you're thinking like, oh, I wouldn't have even met this person had it not been for my sport, which can be cool, but it could also be like, maybe we don't have that much common and it's just the sport. Or maybe we have a lot in common because of the sport. But yeah, find people and find friends and other things that aren't in your sport and just see where it takes you. See what connections it leads you to. See what hobbies and games and events. Like those are things that kind of make you who you are and you find yourself in those moments.
I mean, you know, I teach high school, but like everything you're saying is what I try to tell kids now. Like I teach high school kids and I'm like, figure out the things you like to do. Yes. What are you good at? Yeah. Is it drawing? Do you love clothes? Do you love doing hair? Music? Music? Yeah. Do you like doing nails? What is it that you really like to do? And at the time, I'm like, oh, you know, because it's not irrelevant in their life. Yeah. But I'm like, think now. Mm-hmm. Think of your strengths. Start thinking or tapping into those things that you like to do now. Yeah. Right. And I didn't do that till I stopped playing softball because that's all I did. And I actually realized I love being creative. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I'd be okay with not coaching anymore and going into like interior design or fashion, like. Which
I want to do shout out everyone. If you're seeing my cute little cardigan, Kayla has a thrifting Instagram page. I was going to say a line, maybe eventually. But she thrifted this super cute yellow sweater and I love it because spring is sprung. And I also got an orange one because Mind Goals is all orangey. But this is cute. Like she went out and she was just doing something that's her hobby that she loves to do. And it's like a side hustle now. Yeah. That's cool. How cool is that? Or you're probably linking with people who have common interests, or you know what I'm saying? Like It's the way to connect. And it's all because of you're just following something that you love to do. I think that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I think, right, like I'm a softball coach and my identity could be a softball coach, but it's not. My sport is not who I am, right? It's just what I do, right? Yeah. And so finding that balance, right? And, doing the things I enjoy outside of, sports, and same with, in college or whatever, like find other things that you enjoy doing. Yeah. It's not who you are. It's what you do, Yeah. So...
And that's cool because this, again, what we were just talking about made a little example in my mind. If you're a coach and it's the beginning of season or maybe mid-season or end of season, I would encourage you to do a little activity with your athletes and have them write down like maybe 5 or 6 things about what makes your athlete who they are. So if I was sitting down and I was going to ask, or you're my athlete, Kayla, I would say, write 5 things down about Kayla that have nothing to do with softball. Ready, go, take 10 minutes. And you would say, I'm Kayla. I like to fill in the blank. Think of 5 things.
Yeah. Me?
Pop quiz.
I like to go on hot girl walks.
Yeah. Okay.
I love designing my home.
Cool.
Yeah. I love good conversation. I love quality time with my husband.
Love.
And I love, did I say clothes already?
No, but clothes.
Yeah, clothes, expressing myself and my style. I love clothes.
I love that. See? Yeah. And that's awesome. And like, if this is like an icebreaker or even the beginning of the season, then maybe you like pass it around or like make people stand up and share. And then you just tap and like, then you find people that have common interests. Like, have you ever been on a team and someone's like knows how to play the guitar and you're like, oh, you had this cool talent and nobody knew all 4 years of college? Or like on the bus, someone's singing. You're like, okay, you can actually sing. You were in choir. You can read music. That's dope. Like those are cool things. And that's a good little like team bonding activity as well.
Agreed.
But yeah. Just something to think about, like thought provoking.
Yeah. And again, like you're saying, this is getting to know someone for who they are as a person, not just the sport that they play. I love getting to know my kids. I love them to death. Like just helping them grow as people. And then I think if you grow as a person, right, that translates to your game.
Yes. It's people first.
People first.
Relationships first. I mean, seriously. Know yourself. And it helps you find yourself because, again, we're in our late 20s, but like we're still finding ourselves.
Absolutely.
Every day. Absolutely. And so if you can get a head start, please do it.
Yes.
But is there anything else that you would like to share? Because this is the space I like to hold for athletes. I mean, you're here. This is my platform, but for you to use it.
Yeah, I love talking about it and, talking to like-minded people that have been through it because it's such, if you go through college sports, I feel like you can do anything in life. Like it is a grind.
It is.
Like it is, it's a grind, but, and I've talked about my experience, but I don't regret anything. And, why I do what I do is one, I just want to like motivate and encourage young girls and like help them be the best that they can be. Cause I think you play college sports, you understand what it takes to be great. Right? Like that's next level. You understand what it takes to be great. And like, I try to translate that into my life, like everything that I do, and so I want to share that knowledge. And, I am thankful, my college experience wasn't great, but I don't look back and regret it. I've had such cool experiences. I've met some of my best friends in life through the sport. It has opened so many doors for me. Like I know some of the coolest people and I'm around some of the coolest people in the game and, who it's made me as a person. Like I'm thankful for the game. And that's why I think I'm in what I do. Cause I just like want to give back for everything that is given to me. Besides my college experience, I found love for the game again. Like it's something I love. All I did yesterday was watch college softball all day long.
That's awesome.
That's what bad experience can just like grow you as a person, but Definitely. Overall just like being involved in something and the life skills that you learn. And I'm just so thankful for that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Because again, I love that you reiterate that you don't regret anything you've been through, because I feel the similar way. I've had a lot of shitty things happen, and I've been through trial and error, injury, whatnot, you name it. I've been through the ringer in my own way, shape, or form. But it's all led me to what I'm doing today. It's all part of your journey. And it's all, I think that it's strategically happened.
Yeah. I mean, for like we've become friends, and just like you're just so resilient and just hardworking and disciplined and committed, and like I just love that about you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think likewise. And it's an athletic characteristic that you gain, and this translates into the workforce, which is why people love having athletes, because we have resiliency. We know what it's like to work on teams. We know what it's like to fail and try again, and we're just we're competitive. Like there's so many things that correlate into the workforce that we gain from playing sport. It's so invaluable.
For sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I hope that anyone listening, obviously I'm here as a resource if anyone needs to chat. You know where to find me. You can also find me at ShavonHiggins.com. Browse around. But if you would like to link with Kayla, I'll drop her handle below. Yeah. And
I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, is just gain whatever you've learned and pass it on.
Exactly. Share your knowledge, help kids maybe have a better experience.
Yes.
And like I said, I love where I'm at. I don't, people like, you want to still be playing? I'm like, I'm okay. I'm satisfied. I love being on this side to just like help kids get to where they want to go or be great in whatever they do. So knowledge is power.
It really is. So. And passing it on is the name of the game, because
Absolutely.
What are you going to do with it? Yeah. You need to pass it on somehow. Write it down, platform, share it. Yeah.
I love what you're doing. I think this is so good. And, it's like we athletes, we talk about it and feel about it, but to like really share this information, and like maybe some high school girls or college girls could be like, hey, yeah, I know what you mean. Or, hey, thank you for sharing that. That's helpful, right? If you're being recruited right now.
Yeah.
Like, don't rush a decision, right? Don't pick somewhere just because it's cool, or go somewhere where it feels like you are going to be valued and that you can have a great college experience.
Yeah.
So that'd be my biggest advice.
Yeah. And thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah. And I really appreciate your advice. Again, everyone, Kayla Ober, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, ma'am.